podcast for everybody. So welcome to the potty. Get it? Podcast, party. Welcome to the potty. Yeah. Come on in. Can I get an amen for the cornbread commentary? And come and get served like a commissary. We don't always agree like a promissory. Cause nephew got stats and uncle got facts. And shout out to the viewers cause they always got cracks and jokes. Y'all think y'all funny. Thank you for stopping by. Come on in. Come join the party. Cornbread commentary.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cornbread commentary. What's good with you, nephew?
We in here like swimwear, man.
That is in there. That's in there, especially my swimwear. So I know you we in there. So, man, listen. Listen. I'm just getting right into it. Man, we got a special guest today, and we've had this gentleman on. I know at least once, and it's always good to hear his insight. And a lot of this is going to be about our Tar Heels, right? And we got other things to talk about. But man, listen, before we get into that, I just want to say to everybody out there, I'm glad you're here with us. All right. I say that because I travel a lot and I see a lot of stuff. And I seen some stuff this week, wrecks and all kind of crazy stuff. And it just gives you perspective. So if you're still with us today, just thank God that you're here with us. And we're just glad that you're here with us. And I always say, give God the glory for being here another day. So I just had to throw that out there today. So, hey.
Can't take it for granted, man. Can't take it for granted. Somebody didn't wake up this morning, so it's a blessing. But
it's a blessing.
I guess our guest is waiting. He needs no introduction, man.
No, he does need some introduction.
He don't need no introduction, man. He don't need no introduction. But I call him a good mentor. But you know, a lot of people know him as a lawyer, as a frat brother, as a Tar Heel alum. So we would like to welcome Mr. Antoan. He told me to stop calling him Mr. But
a long time
Mr.
ago.
Antoan, he's in here, and we just want to welcome him back, man. We value your insight. You know your commentary. So thank you for being on with us. I asked you at the last minute, and you came anyway. So I appreciate you as always.
I did. I figured I would join you guys to extend that text conversation that you and I have been having for the last 6 months about different things. But I remember the last time I was on your show, I had a lot to say about NC State fans.
Yeah.
I had a lot to say about Duke fans.
Yes, you did.
I know that we are struggling right now.
It's okay.
It has been a very difficult year. So to those State fans and to those Duke fans, I would like to tell you that I don't take back anything that I said. Hey, everything I still said rings true. Even in our darkest hour, where we have not had a very good year. I don't care. Y'all are still who y'all are, and we're still who we are. And I hope I made you mad when I said that, because the truth sometimes hurts.
Amen.
That's a good intro right there. I told you he didn't need no introduction.
No. I gotta transfer this pain, man. This pain has to go somewhere else.
We're going to do that. Let's get into it, man. But before we do that, we do want to give props. Let me say this. I'm with you 100% on everything you just said. But, man, I live in the house with a State fan.
Ooh,
so
that's hard.
Be careful.
That's hard.
I do want to give props to that NC State team because
I will.
Kevin Keats was on the chopping block last year.
He was.
Okay. He was. And you kind of want to root for him. And then you come in, you got your young man from former Central to Quavion Smith.
Yes.
Awesome.
Excellent player.
Excellent ball player. So repping Eastern North Carolina to Quavion. And then you get the big boy from Rock Hill, South Carolina, Mr. DJ Burns.
That's the difference right there.
Bruh.
He made a difference. This year.
You're right. He gives them something they have not had in probably 10 years. They've always had some good guards to come through there.
Yeah.
They had two of them last year. One of them went try to go to the league, and Traquavion came back.
Yeah.
And I would say, state fans are difficult. And part of the reason why I find them difficult is not because I dislike state fans.
Right.
It's just that they have so much venom for Carolina.
And we don't understand. Well, we know why.
It's the in-state rivalry. Yeah, it's in-state rivalry. They're both big state schools.
Right.
They have differing personalities. They look at Carolina fans like we're elitist. And there's some truth to that.
Amen.
We look at them like they don't have the history of winning recently as much as we do. And there's absolute truth in that. But Kevin Keats was close to losing his job, and they saved his job this year, I think. Unfortunately, the bar for them is making the tournament now. And when I was growing up, the big rivalry was not Carolina versus Duke. It was Carolina versus State.
Amen.
And they have two titles. I would tell them that if you're going to be a player in the particularly when it comes to basketball on the national level, your standard cannot be making the tournament. I'm glad they made it.
So I agree with you. I'm going to piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that I've seen so much hatred coming from Raleigh, coming from Durham, coming from the fan base of those two other schools.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
Because I will say, and I'm going to say it very bluntly, it's not every day you get to win the fight against the big brother.
Exactly.
So enjoy it while you can.
I piggyback off that right there. I asked my group chat at work, there's a couple of Duke people, Alabama. I said, did y'all watch The Last Dance? And in The Last Dance, Michael Jordan said with that baseball bat and the cigar, it's good to talk when you can talk when you up.
When you're up.
But can you talk when the score is even or when you down? So
absolutely.
When it comes to the Duke side of this, I always pull for State against Duke because it's the in-state local kids for the most part against, the elite private school that just happens to be in the state of North Carolina.
Right.
I mean, people don't get is this, and I get you have a right to pull for whatever team you want to growing up, even if you're born in North Carolina. But have any of these people actually been to Duke?
Man.
Where you would actually walk across their campus, and for the most part, once they found out you were born in the state of North Carolina, they're above you. Just because the school is in Durham doesn't mean there's anything North Carolina about the school. And I'm glad Duke beat us twice this year. They got some payback. But if anyone truly believes that 2 regular season wins against a Carolina team that is underperformed somehow makes up for your Hall of Fame coach, bringing all of his former players into the high school arena, and them having 2 ESPN shows going on with the Coach K podcast and this post show.
Yeah.
And this is his last home game and them losing, and him crying on the court because they lost.
Yeah.
Now, when I say
this is unacceptable.
it's unacceptable. And what's amazing is notice all those players on the court with the K on their shirt. Did you notice that not one of them were actually in the Basketball Hall of Fame until Grant Hill finally made it recently?
You preaching.
So when I say bring back Duke greats, let's just understand they were really, really good college players. They weren't Basketball Hall of Famers. And then turn around. Now understand, these 3 schools have been playing basketball forever. State, Duke, and Carolina. Red, blue, and blue. And these particular schools had never made it to the tournament and played each other. And it just so happens that after we gave them a beatdown in his final home game, that we get to play them in the Final Four.
Tell it.
And they have 6 first rounders?
Right.
And they have every bit of motivation to get payback.
Right.
and they didn't.
Hey, I have the T-shirt. I have the T-shirt.
I got the picture on my phone from Caleb Love hitting that shot on him.
Yeah, good luck ever trying to act like these 2 regular season wins make up for that.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
And I'll leave it at that.
So, what I want to say, and we got some Duke fans here. We got a Duke alum. Shout out to Mr. Sneed. He's probably one of the only ones who know about the university, but
he absolutely does. That man carried the rock for them in football. He was a great football player. I'm not talking about him. And when you talk to him, he's very intelligent. Yes, that kid's got it going on.
Absolutely. Got my man Donald Madison up here. Shout out, Duke fan. I wait for the other ones to come in. I know you hiding. I know you back there in the bushes. But here's the deal, man. I'm gonna say it like this. I've been getting a lot of people ask me about the John Shire first year. And we and this is, what's funny? We're supposed to be talking about NC State right now, but this is what happens to State in real life.
Exactly.
They kind of get swept under the rug. So since we're here, let's keep it going. John Shire was set up with a really great class of high IQ, intelligent ball players, including one of the best. I would give him one of the highest IQ ball players, Mr. Roach. And it took him a while to start clicking. We saw the same thing happen with Carolina, Chapel Hill, Brady Manick last year. And I said, if you just happen to be paying attention to the podcast last week before last, Carolina's team is not the highest IQ team this year without Brady Manick. We are very athletic. And I've even had this argument via Facebook about, John Shire's first year, Hubert's first year. They're kind of mimicking each other. Only thing we'll see if John Shire can make it to the Final Four in his first year. So let's pump the brakes on John Shire being coach of the year. I think they went to the right guy, Jeff Capel, by the way.
It did.
I will say this. Hold on, before you say that, there was I don't know if I sent you the link, but before the season started, they ranked John Shire as the number 1 up and coming college coach over Hubert Davis. He hadn't even coached a game yet.
That is the media's hype that Duke always brings. See, he got the benefit of having, I believe, 5 high school All-Americans. Then he was able to bring in a big man to back up Lively and Filipowski. Filipowski, yes. So, I mean, it does help your cause to have that much talent along with the senior guard.
Absolutely.
But that's just what Duke does. Duke is always going to have talent. And Duke's always going to have the ESPN media spin where they're going to get the headlines no matter what.
Yeah. And the referees. My bad.
Always. I knew as soon as they beat Miami in the semifinals and they were going to beat Virginia, they had every bit of motivation to beat Virginia because of what happened in the regular season when Virginia beat them and it's a controversial call. And Virginia just can't score enough points to beat Duke consistently. So I wish him well. I've seen better Duke teams lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So we'll see. Yeah, when the Mercers pop out of the woodwork, then we'll see. When the Lehighs, my man McCullum put him down. So it's one of those things where it's a crapshoot. When you play in the ACC, you get used to playing against people with certain styles.
Yeah,
it's different when you step out of conference. They do, I think, have a pretty good draw. I don't believe they'll have very much resistance in the first game at all. And of course, if they get to play Tennessee, then Tennessee's best point guard is hurt. So I give him props that he's had a very good year. They're healthy now. Because they're healthy, I don't want to hear any excuses.
Right.
I don't want to hear any excuses.
But here's the thing, Duke, man, is going up against a well-coached 30-4 Oral Roberts.
Yeah. I fully expect Duke to steamroll them.
Okay.
If they don't, and it gets to be about 5 minutes to go.
Trouble.
And Oral Roberts is hitting those shots and free throws. And you get sort of tight.
We said this last week. When Duke is in the game, the referees help them out. Now we're talking tournament. Will that be a factor for Duke? Because we have neutral referees.
Yeah, they will always get the calls.
Yes.
The problem is where Duke will have a certain segment of that building rocking, but there are 8 other teams playing too.
Right.
And when that crowd starts seeing that the underdog has a chance to win, it turns on you, man, like a dog. That Rottweiler, when it turns on you,
yeah,
and that pressure, you're looking down the aisle of a Rottweiler that's walking at you.
yeah.
The pressure with the pressure burst pipes. We'll see.
Right,
We'll see.
absolutely.
We'll see.
And the
We'll see
game
what they
is
do.
in Orlando, Florida, correct?
No excuses. Yep.
So I expect, and anybody that knows Orlando, been to Orlando, it's a tourist stomping ground.
Yeah.
I expect that to be a Duke home game, but also I expect it'll be a more neutral environment than a Greenville, South Carolina, or
New
somewhere
York.
close.
New
York, or Greensboro, because
That's it.
Duke usually gets those close, games. So
They do. That block charge call that they need at the end. They'll be able to travel a couple of times and not get called for it.
yeah,
He may get a technical and won't get
Taco
called.
Fall, back when Taco Fall fouled out.
Oh yeah. They always get something like that. But we will see. Yeah, they have shot the ball very well recently.
they have.
It will be interesting to see what happens when they don't shoot it quite well. I'm also a believer that it's hard to win that many ACC tournament games and then turn around and win 6 NCAA tournament games.
Yeah.
You're gonna have an off night, and I don't believe that Jeremy Roach is gonna be able to play like that for 6 more games.
I agree.
We'll see.
I mean, that's history if you think about it, unless you had a stud team.
He's never been that guy. Jeremy Roach has never been that guy. Now Carolina has made him look like that guy this year. We act like we can't guard him to save.
I don't think he's that
RJ,
guy.
man.
I just think he's
like he is somehow. Yeah, like somehow, he is one of the. I guess he's Jay Will all of a sudden. I don't know what Carolina.
But here's why he looks like that guy, because when he played Carolina the first time, he made RJ look bad, and when he played NC State, he made Taquavion look bad.
RJ can't guard, man.
Yeah, I love RJ.
He's just small.
He's too small. He's small.
Yeah.
He's small.
I wish RJ had Trimble's defensive ability.
Right.
And I wish Trimble had RJ's handles.
And shooting
and I know,
ability.
Carolina's main problem is it's been recruiting for a while.
Mm-hmm. Hold that right there. Put a pin right there.
Yeah,
put a pin right there.
Yeah.
Let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get back to that. All right, now, question.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Tar Heels didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did NC State deserve to make it over Clemson?
No.
Not. I don't believe so either. You lose to them 3 times.
3 times, and none of the games were close.
At all. What was it, like 90-54 in the ACC tournament?
It was
none of the games were close. And to me, if you're going to say that the head-to-head games matter, then you can't put them in over Clemson. Now, maybe you could have put Clemson in 2, along with I dropped my earpiece.
You good?
Maybe you could have put them in over one of those other teams too. So I'm not saying it's an either or, but if you told me that I have a choice between State and Clemson, I can't justify putting State in over Clemson.
Okay.
You played 3 times. It'd be one thing if it was 1 and 2. And you could say that State had some better wins and Clemson had some really bad losses.
Yeah.
But if Clemson's not that good and they have some really bad losses, how in the world are you losing to them 3 times?
Right. And I think this quadrant and this quad placement makes
killing the game.
It's killing the game. It makes you forget about what a team did early on versus what a team is doing right now. And I know there's a term, what have you done for me lately? But the whole body of work seems to get missed a lot of times with this quadrant seating in quad 1 and quad 2. And like Carolina went and played in a neutral site against Michigan, a really good Michigan team at the beginning of the year.
At the time, yeah.
And nobody was hurt yet.
Ohio State wasn't a great Ohio State, but now you see these reports. Oh, Ohio State is now a quad one win for Carolina. 10 weeks later, it's crazy.
And then you got the Alabama game. 4 overtimes with our best player missing.
Exactly. Right. The thing here's what the quad stuff is about. Here's what the net is. You got the net ratings. This is my opinion. It's an excuse for people to use those numbers and to crunch those numbers instead of actually watching the games.
Absolutely.
So there's always analytics is a push to satisfy people who are into the numbers. And you can use numbers to justify anything. But do you actually watch the games?
So
I don't think so.
Good point. Now let me ask you this question. Does the quad have anything to do? Does it have anything to do with Vegas?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't believe so.
Okay. I don't necessarily think it's about that. I think it will become important now that you're doing the brackets and you're betting on teams. You'll sort of look at who they beat in certain quads to sort of guesstimate how they're going to perform in the future.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where I don't know if that's what's going on up front.
Okay.
I think it's just basically a way to make Joe Lunardi think he is super important.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about Joe right now. And Carolina didn't. We'll get to this, but Carolina didn't do enough to deserve to go to NCAA.
Not at all. Not at all.
And I stand by that. I was asked that question 3 times over the last 3 weeks.
I'm glad you said that. I got a photo on my phone I kept for this purpose. And I'm going to read it to you. I didn't get to add it, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, we had 13 losses, but seven were against ranked teams, and the average margin of loss was only by 6 points, with the largest being at Indiana, which is 12 points. It would be 4 teams by more than 20, and we never got blown out by any team at all this year, regardless. So I can't say we did. I mean, we up to our standards, we didn't deserve it, but looking at the line where some of those teams, we definitely could have made the tournament.
And let me add this to what you just said, nephew. I was seeing this in the Washington Post. This is the first time Carolina has had 20 wins and not been in the NCAA tournament. And I know all the Duke fans like, here they go again. Y'all know what this is about. You're in the tournament. Okay, good for you. But we got something to talk about right now. So now I want to say this. I'm pulling for NC State. I'm just go ahead and put it out there. I'm pulling for
Texas.
I want the ACC to get it because the ACC is getting picked on just a bit, And so I'm going to go with NC State. It darn sure is not going to be Duke, but I know my Duke fans out there. You know what? I'm gonna tell you why I'm doing this. All right, so let me just exhibit A here, Mr. Whidbee. Ain't that how y'all do it in court?
Yes,
exhibit A.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you why. All right, take a look at this. All right, you see this, ladies and gentlemen? This is the last 20 champions. What sticks out to you?
We won more than anybody. We won more than anybody in the last 20 years.
You got 6 ACC that are still in the ACC championships, and you have Syracuse and you have Maryland who were in the ACC at the time, I believe, right?
Right. So put some respect on the ACC name, number one, and put some respect on Carolina's name.
Yeah.
It's the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm following that.
We're the only team that is won, in every decade, right?
From the way it looks,
yes.
Sir.
Yes. I'm proud of that. That's a beautiful graphic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't imagine. Put that graphic back up there again.
Yeah, I got you.
Let me see that again. I can't imagine seeing NC State on that graphic.
Just don't even fit.
it would just shock me to even see. I mean, talking about 1983. I just they have the talent to do it. Though. I will say this: when those two guards get hot, and you got the big boy down low, if he avoids foul trouble, they are a tough out. The problem that I feel with them though is they get so in love with those long 3-point shots that they can shoot the other team out of the game. They can blow them out quickly.
Yeah.
But they can also, it's like Caleb Love to a degree. They can
themselves
also
out the game.
they can shoot themselves out of the game too.
Absolutely.
So they're gonna have to rein that in a little bit because that's exactly what happened to Clemson. They were so hot when they played. Who did they play the game before? They beat the mess out of somebody.
They beat the mess out of Duke. I know that.
They beat the mess out of Duke, and in the ACC tournament, it was Virginia Tech, right? They killed Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
And
they too, you know. So yeah.
So it's one of those things where then they came out against Clemson and tried to shoot the exact same way as the night before. And I think it's a different night. And when those shots are not going in, you got to figure out what else to do. And to me, they should have fed that big boy even more than they did. Yeah. But we shall see. I can't say I'm going to pull for State. It does not bother me if they do well, to tell you the truth. It's just that their fans many times are just so aggressive and angry.
Yeah, they are. That's for sure. That's for
that
sure.
It's hard. It's
What's
hard.
up?
Do you have your men's and women's Final Four predictions already, or you want to wait?
Man, I don't even listen. I ain't even gonna do it.
Mr. Antoine, you got yours?
I do. Let me know when y'all ready to hear it.
I think we should go ahead and do that and then just dive into what we need to dive into.
I want to hear it because I don't even want to talk about it.
All right. Go ahead with the men's predictions.
I'm going to go with UCLA.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go with Baylor. I'm going to go with Alabama. I'm not sure what these are who I believe the rest 4 teams are.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember where I put them at in the quads. And I'm going to go with UConn.
No Houston?
Okay.
No Houston, because I think they're going to miss that Sasser kid too much.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing.
Yeah, I think he's going to be limited. Nothing would make me happier. Yeah, nothing would make me happier for Alabama to lose in an excruciating fashion. I'll be honest. The things I've heard about their coach, even before he became the Alabama coach, I didn't like.
Yeah.
And given everything that's going on and the way they handled it, and I'm not trying to say the kid should be arrested. I actually believe the opposite. But the way they handled that situation with trying to keep it quiet and acting like they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
That is powerful for Alabama and their coach. So I hope he gets drafted where he should be drafted. But I hope that coach loses because I think he's a snake, and I think that he's a snake oil salesman. I don't believe that Kansas is going to win it. I don't believe they're quite good enough this year to go back to back.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think so either. That's really hard.
I just don't. Honestly, I don't think that Kansas is strong enough. And also, when you look at Texas has had some up and down with the coaching situation. The gentleman that stepped in, he's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say Duke. Shout out to Terrence Sutton. I know he's a Duke fan. Shout out to Duke fans. Y'all come on in. Come get this, man.
I don't.
They got the easiest path. I will say that.
As always.
Which many times is not good for them. If you look at the times that they normally lose, in times that they shouldn't lose, it's normally when they do have an easier path. On the Texas thing, what does that dude have to do to get a job, man? To get that permanent job, what does he have to do?
It's sad that
they beat Kansas twice.
This is the sad part, yo. And we were supposed to talk about something else here first. I'll get to it. It's sad that the guy who lost the job at Texas is getting a job somewhere else before the other guy that's you know what I'm saying?
It is wild.
Yeah.
I understand that he did not have a great record at the smaller schools that he coached at. But one thing you can do at Texas is recruit. And now he has shown that when you get him the right type of players, he can coach. And, I understand that Chris Beard, the former coach, did not get convicted of beating his fiance. But An institution like Texas is not going to just let you go without hearing something that is concerning enough.
Absolutely.
But you know what? He went to the right place. He went to the SEC, and the SEC will hire anybody. And you want to win some basketball games. You got some stuff on your record, and you probably should not be coaching at a institution of higher learning. Go coach at the SEC.
Bruce
They do anything. Yeah, they do anything. I mean,
Mark Godfrey.
They do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Who was your four again?
I like these are I don't know what the quads are, but these are the 4 teams that I like to possibly cut down the nets. I had Baylor, because I think it would help Baylor to get away from the Big 12. Mm-hmm. I had UConn because they play that weird style that most people don't play anymore, and they can hold teams down from scoring. I believe I had Alabama, unfortunately, because I think they just have that much more talent. And the last team I had was UCLA.
Okay.
I think they're balanced. Good.
Yeah. I think my 4 we got one of the same, but I got Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, and Kansas State, K-State.
K-State.
Yeah.
K-State?
Yeah.
We don't know.
K-State, man. Hey,
anything State's gonna lose. Anything State's gonna lose. NC State, K-State. It's gonna happen. Anything Tech, Texas Tech, G Tech, they're gonna lose. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
But I think K-State is a sleeper, man. K-State and Arkansas, you gotta watch out. But I got Texas winning it all.
Shout out Jermaine Grimes. He said Marquette. What y'all think about Marquette, man?
Love Shaka Smart.
They're good for a game. They're good for a game.
Too, man.
Love Shaka Smart. He has taken nothing and made into a top 10 team this year.
I think Shaka Smart is the best hire that NC State never had. If you catch what I just said, that he should have been at NC State. But anyways,
I'm glad he's not.
Me too.
If you leave it as stormy as Lavelle Moten is the best hire that State they never had.
and that maybe to me the shining light was State making the tournament this year. They get to keep Kevin Keats. Mm-hmm. Because I don't believe that Kevin Keats is ever going to be able to recruit on a level that's going to have them competing consistently with Duke and Carolina. I don't believe he's going to be able to do it. I think you need a more dynamic personality, like a Lavelle Moten. I think he would do well there, like a Shaka Smart. Good.
All right, we rabbit holing, but it's good, right? All right, you brought this up. Me and my brother had this conversation going. Nephew, we had this conversation going too. Whenever Carolina had an opening, and people were saying that Lavelle Moten should be considered for Carolina. I disagree with that, but I do agree with him going to State.
Wow, what's the difference?
The difference is when it comes down to the University of North Carolina, and we see it right now with Hubert, and him being able to recruit is different. I'm not sure Lavelle would have been able to recruit outside the region of North Carolina the way he can and grab it and take it to Central. I don't think he would have been able to do it in North Carolina. I do think he's dynamic enough that NC State is not as prestige. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I always rep for Lavelle, but I think the moment like Hubert is getting this, and we're going to get into it, Hubert is getting these sideways jabs. I don't know if that was for Lavelle. I just don't. And I would like to hear your opinion on why Lavelle should have been considered for the Carolina job.
I think he is one of several others who should have been considered. I don't think he would have had a problem recruiting at Carolina at all. I think, number one, Carolina, to a certain degree, can recruit itself. So you're going to get 4- and 5-star guys that are in the top 50 just because it's Carolina offering. That's kind of what we were doing with the end of Roy Williams. I mean, we were getting guys who were, I would tell Tony, I never thought are UNC level players coming to Carolina. They still were 4- and 5-star guys, but they weren't the guys that I was used to seeing Carolina play with in the 90s and the early 2000s. Right. I think Lavelle has enough NBA connections that kids would be drawn to that. Now, I think any African-American coach that was going to get that job after Roy Williams were going to take certain beats. Because the type of thing I was hearing, and what I'm hearing now from a lot of UNC fans, is we should have hired Wes Miller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm a fan of Wes Miller.
Me too.
That being said, I don't believe that the competition that he was coaching against at UNCG is any better than what Lavelle was coaching in Central. And we're seeing that because he's now going to Cincinnati, and they have not made the tournament and have not really even been close. Now, I guess you could say that he doesn't have his players there, but when you look at that conference, there's been turnover of all those rosters. So Penny Hardaway, for example, lost his entire roster from Memphis last year and has 2 transfers. And I've watched them play Cincinnati twice, or maybe 3 times, maybe twice. And those games have not been close. They just haven't. I mean, so I like Wes, but tell me why. Now, if we're going to say that Hubert didn't have the requisite experience, then okay. Then why did Roy Williams get the job at Kansas? Because he did not coach a single game of college basketball. And Dean Smith went to bat for him, and he got the coaching job at Kansas.
Right.
So I think it didn't matter what coach was going to come after Roy Williams. There will be certain people that are going to go after him. Now, here's the reality.
Right.
I just don't think the players that we have are very good. And here's what I mean.
Amen.
Yes, they made a great run last year. Caleb Love got very hot in the UCLA game, and he's the only reason we won that game. Brady Manek got hot from the Duke game on. Okay? But let's just be real. When you look at that starting lineup, there is not a single player except for maybe Armando Bacot that would even get minutes on any traditional great Carolina team. Not a single one.
Said this all week.
I would think Leaky would because he actually plays defense.
No.
His offense is so limited.
Yeah.
And yes, he's an elite defender, but given his position on this team, you can't be Jackie Manuel on this team. Yeah. So Jackie Manuel was a great defender. He didn't have to score because he was surrounded by
right.
That's what I was comparing him to. Yeah.
So check me on this. I can't remember the time frames on this, but I felt like Roy thought he was getting a Brandon Ingram when he recruited Leaky.
Maybe.
And it just did not pan out.
Brandon Ingram
confidence.
He has a scoring mentality.
Leaky doesn't have
that. Leaky doesn't have that.
In high school,
confidence.
I seen him play in high school. Leaky did.
He was point guard too. He played point guard.
He wasn't Brandon Ingram. So there are times where Leaky will have a chance to dunk the ball.
And he will lay it up.
And he will choose not to. He would choose to avoid the contact. So it's so bad that when at the end of the Florida State game, when we played toward the end of the year, when he actually drove that ball and dunked it, it surprised me. Like, ooh. You can do that when you want to.
Right.
Brandon Ingram is going to try to do that every game.
Okay, now I'm about to take this thing a bit deeper. And I actually told my boy Duck that I was going to say this, and I might step on some toes. I've officiated basketball for around about 15, 16 years on different levels. Mainly a lot of high school, done some AAU. And the question I'm going to ask you is, do you feel like AAU is killing IQ of basketball players? Because we see a lot of, you said this earlier, we see a lot of 4- and 5-star guys, and that's because they play a large AAU circuit for a AAU team branded John Wall, Chris Paul, and there are some high IQ guys out there.
I don't think it's killing IQ. I think it's killing mentality.
IQ mentality. Do you think that we are seeing these kids play so much basketball, we're not paying attention to everything about their game?
I think offense has changed. So the 3-point shot has a lot to do with it. So you'll have a guy, well, two things. The 3-point shot, and everybody wants to be a point forward now. Okay, that's where dudes like LeBron and KD, it's a blessing and a curse because those dudes can do everything. They can handle, they can dish, they can score, they can board, they can defend. So anytime you get a 6-7 play, that's what they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it is great to take that shot in high school, right? I want to facilitate the offense. It's what you hear them say on the AU circuit, right? So I want a free flowing game. I want the ball in my hand is another catchphrase, and I want to be able to make the decision. So they want to be the point forward. They want to do everything. That's great for the cream of the crop. But then as you get down to player number 10, you have that mentality that you want to be that, but you're not actually that.
You gotta know your role.
So what happens when you can, what's the best? So if you got Leaky, for example, is a really good example. The other example was a kid sort of like Seventh Woods,
right?
Who's a point guard size, has all the athleticism, but he was able to be an athlete for so long in high school that when it became time to learn how to run a team, he couldn't do it. He just couldn't. What happens when you have a dude like Theo Pinson, where it takes them a little bit longer to play that point forward role and accept the fact that, you know what, I'm just not a good enough scorer to put up 15 shots a game. But what I can do is take 10 shots a game. You know what I mean? Go 4 for 5, get 7 assists, and get 8 rebounds. So he's a top 25 guy, but we thought with his ranking coming into school that he would be Brandon Ingram.
Right.
But he really wasn't. He was really more like a pure point guard which is bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
And it took him a full 3 years to even get to that point, to accept that. So I think it's harder to tell kids that in AAU because you label them a superstar when they're 12 and you'll build the team around them. And you have these basically super teams in AAU, they can't be beat anyway. So there's no real adversity.
And that's why I said that, right? I advocate for AAU. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I advocate for the AAU teams, but I also understand what I see whenever I had appreciated these games and been to these games where you have 4 or 5 superstars on one team. You break them up, you send them to a Kansas, you send them to a Duke, and now they got to play with other guys. Because AAU, honestly, it gives exposure. Don't get me wrong. AAU gives exposure that a high school would never give some of their athletes. And coming from a high school that didn't want to give anybody exposure except for certain kids, I get it. So, but I'm also saying that I think we got to understand that whenever Carolina gets a 4 or 5 star kid that played in the AAU circuit that was really good, that doesn't mean Carolina is going to win every year.
No.
And so therefore, I think, and let's go to Carolina, let's go to the Duke. If you look at a lot of the kids from Duke, right? I'm gonna give Duke some props. I said this earlier. A lot of high IQ kids that probably want to start on the AAU teams.
It is interesting because the fit is different. So the fit has to be perfect.
It has to be, man.
And
Cinderella.
you know what they got is the Proctor kid who could handle.
Yeah.
They got the Roach guy who could handle.
Right.
The Lively kid, he was the number 1 recruit, but what did he end up turning into? He's really just a guy in the dunker position. He'll set a screen.
Williams.
Yeah, he'll set a screen, then roll to the basket and dunk it, and he'll weak side block shots and rebound.
He's a role player.
Yeah. He's a role player.
He's really what JaVale McGee does.
That's all he is. And it fits together perfectly. The problem that Carolina has is, when you watch Kansas, they got the Grady Dick kid.
Right.
Who's a straight, flat out 3-point mark.
Shooter.
Okay. We'll get the nickel kid that we had that just decided to transfer. And there was legitimate conversations during this year, whether nickel in the beginning of the year would be just as good as Grady Dick. And I'm thinking just because he did really well in the private, circuit in Virginia where he played, he scored the most points in Virginia history, and he was very good on his AAU team. There are levels to this, man.
There's levels.
And Go ahead.
Now I'm saying what you just said, and also Terrence Sutton just said, AAU is the best and the worst thing for kids, man.
Terrence is 100% right.
It's and some would disagree, but man, I just think that we're hold on. Let's take a step back because Terrence played around the same time I did.
Yep.
If there was a rivals, max prep, and huddle, and all of this stuff when we was playing, we might be somewhere right now. And that shout out to Sutton, shout out to a lot of other cats up here.
Yep.
And I'm talking about football field and basketball field.
And basketball, yeah.
So I feel like the AAU and all the exposure from all these websites, social media has pumped up a lot of people to give them ratings that they don't necessarily earn when they get to a Carolina. And I think that's what we have with this Carolina team right now. They kind of drive it back home to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Man, Didi, we didn't have that, man. We had VHS tapes, bro. we have all that, bro.
And whether your parents had the $25,000 a year to drive you over to all these camps,
right?
It's completely different too.
Right. I think the biggest thing is social media, though. You can look at highlight tapes on your phone. You post them to Instagram, like that's the biggest difference. Like Seven Woods when YouTube came out, that's how he blew up.
Yep. That's how he blew up. He never progressed. He got his name. Yeah. He never progressed. And I look at DeMarco Dunn and I'm thinking, he was a marksman on his AAU team. But when you're taking wide open shots because you're playing with all these other dudes,
exactly.
It's different when you wide open, but there's somebody coming at you.
It's different when you take a stacked team into the Georgia Peach Jam.
Right. It don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing.
And like I said, it's different. So we're gonna get off of that. And I wanted to kind of bring it up because I think we for us to kind of reel in what we're talking about with this Carolina team. And I know y'all saying y'all talking this Carolina. Man, y'all going to Carolina for a state, Duke, y'all going. But let's break this thing down. So
they trash.
With Carolina. All right. Yes. Now, I told nephew to put this down as a caption today, right? And I don't know if you can. I gotta find it. There you go. Yeah. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying right now.
But it's not for the reasons you think we talking about.
Not for the reasons you think. It's hard to be a UNC fan right now.
Why?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. Exhibit B. Your Honor, can I present some evidence?
Absolutely.
All right. Here we go. Duke fans, chime in. Whatever you want to say. All right. So when you read this, Hubert decided not to partake in the NIT. And I had this text conversation today via Facebook with a good friend of mine. He's a Carolina fan, but he hates Hubert. And respect him. I respect this gentleman. I don't know if he's watching the cast or not, but I'm seeing a lot of this right here, right?
Yes.
And people are out for Hubert's head because he decided to forego the NIT. This is a tournament in which Carolina and Duke fans laugh at year after year after year. Okay. And he decided, and I actually texted this. I said it's no different than teams taking subpar bowl games, invites from a bowl game, and saying, no, we don't want to go play in the Cricket's Hot Dog Bowl. We want to get healthy. We want to figure out what's going on. And then I said in the bottom, and then some other little Carolina fans jumped up on me on the Carolina forum, said he just flat out quit. Wrong. I said this right here. I said, now let's talk about apples to apples. Let's talk about quitting. Jim Boeheim last week quit. Jim Boeheim just flat out quit.
If you want to go back 2 years ago, Duke got the same invitation.
Maybe.
Okay, fair enough. All right, but I also said Roy Williams his last year with 18-11. I love you, Roy. With 18-11, and decided to walk away from the game abruptly and very quietly. You can almost categorize that as somewhat quitting. Now, I know.
Walker Kessler put him in the retirement.
Right? All right.
He did.
Roy had about 4 or 5 of the same players on that team as Hubert had on this team this year. Mind you, Roy also went 14-19 the following year.
He had Cole Anthony on his team.
Cole Hampton on his team. I don't think Hubert quit. I think, and I said, example, you ride down the road and you feel your F-150 V8, 2 out of the 8 cylinders misfiring. And then you pull up to AutoZone, you tell him to read the code. Boom, he's saying, hey, partner got a misfire. You say, okay, he's just the AutoZone kid. Then you go down the street to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, hey, man, you misfiring on 2 out of your 8 cylinders. You going to keep driving it, or you going to stop and you're going to fix the misfiring and reset? What you going to do?
I'll say this, and this is a fan discussion. So, Mr. Tony and myself and a very good friend of ours named Stormy Ford, who are all Carolina folks.
All day, every day.
Yeah, I will say certain things on the text message thread that's just angry. Okay? Mm-hmm. But then when I go to a forum like Inside Carolina, I won't say the same things. Then when I go to a Facebook forum, I won't say the same things.
I'm eating them
and because you got to understand the mental makeup of who you're talking about.
Yeah.
So Armando Baycap out about 2 weeks ago said that some of the things that have gotten said outside the locker room has gotten into the locker room. So things that are outside have come inside. Which makes me wonder what makes me wonder what's going on with the mental makeup of your team. Then he gets hurt, and we know that 3 or 4 guys are thinking about transferring. And your best player is not going to be able to play in that tournament. Given what I think the level of fragility that could be going on with this team, you don't need to go, because the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose the first game and be ridiculed more.
Exactly.
And those kids can't handle that. So pressure burst pipes. And this team after last year. So last year they went on this run because no one expected anything of them. They sucked the year before. They were very mediocre last year. So finally some shots just start going in and they felt hot. This year you get ranked preseason number 1, but it doesn't mean that your mental makeup has changed. It just means that other people expect you to be good.
And that's the problem. That's why it's hard to be a Carolina fan, because right now it's the Carolina faithful. I done heard, oh, that's not the Carolina way. That's not how we do. I'll bring up another exhibit C here. I don't even know if we go that far in court. Too much talent was wasted on Hubert Davis' fault. Somebody needs to be looking into the coaching skills 100%. Just not a good fit for Carolina. Come on, man. Miss me with all of this.
Well, here's the thing. Roy lost with the same players. Only 2 of these kids are actually Hubert's recruits. You have Nichols, and I believe you have the Washington kid.
Maybe Donovan Styles. Is Styles?
No, Styles was DeMarco Dunn, which was Roy's recruit. They signed a letter of intent before he retired. So I do not think that Hubert Davis is a great coach right now. I don't think Roy Williams was a great coach his second year at Kansas either. We know Dean Smith was not at the time. Right. We don't even know if John Shire is a great coach, because what happens if he had the 4 year next year?
Right.
So the reality is this. If you were down with Hubert getting the job in the first place, you're probably more likely to defend him. Because when you look at the 2024 recruiting class, you got 4 or 5 stars coming in. Okay?
Amen.
Now, when I hear mess like the Carolina way, did any of these folks actually read the book? Because most of the book did not have anything to do with winning games.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, it didn't talk about winning games. It talked about a mentality for how to play, how to be a student athlete, how to represent your university. So a lot of these fools popping off on social media about the Carolina Rays have no idea what they're talking about.
What it means.
They just don't get it. So my thing is this. If you want to fire the man today, go ahead. But it wouldn't look quite right, because you didn't even fire Matt Doherty that fast after going 8-20 and being a jerk. Does that mean he's going to develop into a great coach? We don't know.
We don't know yet. And 2 years is not enough to put the man's
He ain't even got his own players yet. He don't even have his own players.
I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. If you're going to do that, we need to fire Mac Brown for having 0-5, being 0-5 in the last 5 games of the season with a ranked 15 at the beginning of the season, and had me in Charlotte cold tailgating, playing against Clemson, and then we turn around and I show up. Same logic. But
I'm gonna tell you when we started. I'm gonna tell you when we started on the decline. Roy Williams, when he decided to be so sour at the green room, and guys wanted to go to the league, and guys expect you to play, so you're not going to have a Marvin Williams who's going to be your second best player on the team and we're willing to sit there. When he decided to put out there and have recruits like Cade Cunningham say stuff like this, I would have gone to Carolina, but you know how Roy in Carolina does. So you end up with Leaky instead of Cade Cunningham, or you end up with Caleb Love instead of Cade Cunningham. So we used to be ranked number one recruiting every single year. Even in 2017, fellas, Joel Berry, Burger Boy. Theo Pinson, Burger Boy. Kennedy Meeks, my fraternity brother, Burger Boy. Justin Jackson was the number 2 small forward in the country. Isaiah Hicks, top 25 player. We don't have that.
Hey, you can look at that when we miss Harry Giles. We miss Harry Giles. I knew something was up.
How did you miss Brandon Ingram coming out of Kinston?
Because JP left just because Brandon Ingram was supposed to fill that spot.
Yeah.
How did you miss on Brandon Ingram in Kinston?
Hey, listen, that's why I said it's hard to be a Carolina fan. This didn't just start today.
No.
It didn't just start. And for all you Duke fans, we understand. We're looking in the mirror right now. Get it. Get your licks in. While
we'll see. We'll see. Here's what I will say. He's got to hit the transfer portal. He's got to get guys who can shoot.
Defend.
The noise you just got to tune out. I mean, some of these folks, man, they didn't want him to get the job in the first place. Some of these folks don't like certain players because of their social positions and opinions. So people will come after Armando Bacot. It ain't got nothing to do with his performance. Look at where he is in the record books. It has to do with his social stances.
I mean,
or because he gets
dreads.
Or he decided to speak at this particular Black Lives Matter thing and he wore a shirt. Or he gets NIL money. But here's the thing: NIL's not the problem. There are plenty of basketball teams that are winning games that players get NIL. We just have bad ones. We have bad players doing it.
Yeah. And
you better be able to recruit. But my choice over Hubert Davis was Jerry Stackhouse. Do you know why he did not get the job? He did not get a legit interview? Because Stack ain't gonna handle these fans the same way with kids' gloves.
Stack is not a yes man either.
There you go. So he could be like, you talk about the Carolina Rays, some of y'all need to shut up. That's my jersey in the Raptors.
Yeah.
Yep.
No one could guard me on the court, so y'all can miss me with that stuff. Hubert's jersey's in the Raptors, but he is not that confrontational.
Yeah, he's a smooth, chill guy. Yeah, we need somebody ragey though.
Yeah, some of these fans, man, they talk about the Carolina way, but the Carolina way is my way, which is why they would pick West over Jerry Stackhouse.
Absolutely.
Whose resume is better?
Jerry, and he coached in the NBA a little bit, G League.
No, I understand that he has not been to the tournament at Vanderbilt, but bruh, try to recruit at Vanderbilt if you want to.
I feel like he got snubbed this year.
He did. He did. He beat Kentucky twice, once on the road.
Yeah.
The second game was big. I took my placement exams and sat right behind Jerry Stackhouse. The dude is smart. The dude understands offense. But if you Google what he told Vanderbilt fans 2 years ago, when they started getting on his case about not winning enough games, he was like, dude, the last 2 years y'all won 8 games. And you're coming at me my second year about wins?
Yeah, miss me.
And he was 100% right. But,
yeah,
Hubert does a better interview, but, they will turn on him very fast. And I would say I'm not a Hubert guy like that, but I know what fair is.
Mm-hmm.
Nah.
I
said this, and I'm going to take it to this extreme. I said this, shout out Jermaine Grimes, shout out Tony was on this text message. I'm going to verbally support Hubert right now.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because if Hubert gets missing from Carolina, we won't see another Hubert in 20 years if read between the
Exactly.
lines.
It won't be Stack. It won't be Lavelle. It won't be anybody like that.
Yeah.
And they will give it to someone that's very comfortable, who they wanted to give it to in the first place. So I won't be on social media blasting him like that.
It's kind of like, I'm not sure if y'all paid attention to it. Me, shout out Donna Madison, the young lady who was the coach at East Carolina.
Yeah.
That same situation, and look what she did. That's kind of what I want to see.
Yeah.
They went from worst to first.
There you go.
I met her. She's a good person.
There you go.
She's a good, genuine person.
And it doesn't bother me that some of these dudes are transferring. It doesn't bother me that Tyler Nichols transferred at all. Because I'm looking at him thinking, bro, you was a number 90 recruit. The only reason we even had to offer you a scholarship is because Gigi Jackson took the $2 million and went to South Carolina. But, we were stuck offering you.
How many guys transferred the year Roy's last year? You know the answer to this. I know the answer to this because more than that.
I thought Walker Kessler. No, that's true.
Walker
Kessler transferred.
Tech. Curran Walton.
Play Tech. Walton transferred. Walton transferred last year.
Garcia.
No, that was Hubert. There was a guard that transferred. What's the guard that transferred? He kept getting hurt. He blew out his knee a couple times. Not Anthony Harris. But the other guy.
Jeremiah Francis.
Yes.
Yeah. Three under Roy.
I hate to say it. Those dudes should have been playing at Carolina. They weren't good enough. Andrew played. Look at Cole Anthony's roster.
Yeah.
That he was playing with.
Who was transferred?
Christopher Keeling.
Yeah.
You had the other dude that came out of George Mason.
Oh, yeah.
And you had Playtech. Justin somebody. And you had the best point guard in the class. I'm thinking, these are not Carolina recruits. But we got so caught into these are multi-year guys. And they'll stay more than 1 year. Yeah, but what are they going to turn into?
Yeah. So with all that being said, I conclude my case, Your Honor. Y'all need to chill with Hubert and let him do his thing.
I gotta say one thing. If you're a real fan, man, get out of these players' comments, man, on social media. I know people hating on Caleb Love right now, but there's no reason he should have to delete his IG pages, Twitter pages because people are hating on him so bad. I mean, he didn't play well, but it's a game at the end of the day, and it's a team game. He wasn't
I'm gonna say this.
Shots.
I'm gonna be real with you. Y'all know I don't like Duke, but this would never happen at Duke like this.
Not to this degree.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
I don't think so, man.
I read some of the things they had to say last year as they lost to us twice, once in the final.
I mean,
they
were. You had to read what they said about Zion and then when they didn't win the championship.
Okay.
So here's the thing, though. With Caleb, they don't like Caleb anyway. So this is what I know. Even when Caleb scored those 40 points against UCLA,
they called him a thug.
There were still people who hated Caleb. Mm-hmm. Even when he hit the shot against Duke, there were still people who hated Caleb because he had this in-your-face thing about him. Mm-hmm. And he is boisterous and he's aggressive. And when he does something, he can point and gesture. That's not the Carolina way.
Hey, you know who that reminds me of? And he got the same treatment.
Rasheed Wallace?
No.
Forte was the same way. You're right. Okay. I remember, man. Let me tell you. Hey, to me, we need more of that nasty back. I mean, when Vince would dunk in your face, Vince would dunk on you and run down the court and just stare. Rasheed would dunk on your face and scream.
Yeah.
There's a little bit too much niceness that I think that Carolina has gotten into. And to me, who cares? There's an edge that you have to play with, and the fans don't like it, but yet they want to jump in his comment under a fake or some name on Twitter and talk trash about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that's just cowardly, man.
I agree.
It's just cowardly. So he'll probably
keep your head up, Caleb. Keep your head up, Caleb.
He'll probably transfer.
Head up. And I say to everyone out there, man, you got to give Hubert a chance, man. You have to.
I give him a chance. He better win some games. I give him the 2024 when he gets the Cadeau kid, he gets Drake, and he'll get, I think it's Ian Jackson that's committed. Those are 3 5-stars. We'll probably get this Stevenson kid that's out of Pittsburgh. We'll give him to them. But he better hit that transfer portal And he just pushed them these dudes out. I don't care about Tyler Nichols. I mean, I'm glad Nancy's gone. I don't know why McCoy's on the team. Like, why are you even
That was my next question for you. Who do you want to stay and who do you want to leave?
Woo, let's see. I wouldn't mind having Baycott back because I think he is a perfect representative for the team.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want RJ to come back. I think he has the mentality to do well, even though he better get in the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that,
what about Jalen Washington?
I think he's very talented. I think he is soft as tissue. I hear a lot about Seth Trimble and how athletic he is. I haven't seen any of that.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I've seen it.
Barely.
What play? What play? If he leaves tomorrow, it wouldn't bother me at all. We ain't lost nothing.
He is a lot like his big brother. He doesn't show up all the time, but
he's not 6'7".
Yeah.
I take
DeMarco Dunn
over DeMarco Dunn.
DeMarco Dunn is the same thing.
Over DeMarco Dunn?
DeMarco Dunn is terrible, man.
Yeah.
I'm Puff Johnson. Hey, I will come to Chapel Hill and help Puff Johnson pass.
Puff is not his brother.
Man.
I'm glad his brother was great.
Yeah.
But bro, I'm thinking, man, he's like Anthony Davis. He getting hurt every game.
Every game, boy.
Yeah. I think he's a great kid. I would never be in his comments doing some of the stuff foolishness that people do.
Nah.
I think Dontrell Styles is interesting as a player. I don't get the movement to have Dontrell Styles play. Like, do what?
Yeah.
I mean, in this offense, you got to be able to shoot them all.
I think that Kinston help Dontrez.
A lot of cousins. He must have a lot of cousins that are just advocating for him because they keep talking about his game that I don't see.
Just Baycott and Davis. That's all you want.
That's about it.
In the biscuit crew.
I don't even know who they are. I want some Jameson. I want some Carter. I want some Stackhouse. Yeah. I want some Machine. That's what I'm used to. This Roy Williams last 4 or 5 years mess, and this team.
Yeah.
I'm glad you had the opportunity to play for UNC. I think y'all are great representatives of the university. I think we need to upgrade the talent. There's no excuse for it. Yeah. No excuse. But if you go back, it started with Roy being so just pissy about the green room. I don't know this green room stuff. I'm like, hey, what are you talking about?
Not only that, Roy was one of the first coaches to be very vocal against the NIL and the portal.
You can't do it.
I was against it, but I wasn't on his level. And he was basically telling these kids, you do it, don't come here.
Right. I'm thinking, okay, you can hate it.
Yeah.
But this is 2023.
It is.
You notice almost every coach, older coach has retired in the last 2 or 3 years because of that. Mike Gray, Boeheim, Roy, Coach K, Jay Wright to an extent.
That's okay. I mean, look, nothing made me happy to see Jim Boeheim go.
You and me both.
He makes me sick.
Like I said, he quit. The way he did it.
I'm sorry. He took that dagger to the chest. That 3 went in. I'm like, bye. Yeah. They fired him. He is so ornery.
Yeah.
And yes, you have 1,000 wins. Well, you should. You coached for 15 years.
Exactly.
Let's not forget that. So here's what bothers me, and I'll let you guys go because I'm sure time is almost over.
We good.
So he's talking about NIL and how terrible the transfer portal is and how it is cheating college basketball. Did this dude have 300 wins ripped from him for the cheating?
Exactly.
Who is this dude? Like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you have certain Carolina fans who hate Jim Boeheim. But he says that Jim Boeheim is right. He has a point. No, that's because you hate NIL too. It is perfectly fine for all these coaches to make all this money. And we'll suspend Ty Lawson for a game because he coached in an unauthorized basketball team. Really? That's what we're doing there? I don't care how much money they make. Yeah. They can make as much money as they want. Now, once you take the money, you better perform.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You gotta perform.
Man, you gotta perform. Say this. It's hard to be a Carolina fan, but I'm going to remain a Carolina fan.
It's easy. Ask Terrence, are you listening? I hope you're listening, Terrence. Because I understand.
Oh,
Me and Terrence are cool. But Terrence be put up there like, these 2 regular season wins make up for it. No, they don't.
Not even close.
Unless we meet you in the Final Four
Or the championship game.
for the championship, and Hubert Davis has somehow ascended to the level of what Coach K was, and you get 2 back-breaking defeats with all those NBA players on the team, then holler at me. Until then,
Hey,
enjoy your 2 regular season wins. Be very, very happy that we did not make the tournament. There you go. And be very happy that we did not make the tournament. I hope y'all win the whole thing. I doubt it happens. And I will continue to ignore state fans like I normally do, because there's always this cousin out there that you really don't like that you have to acknowledge at the cookout, but you really will hope they just choke and die.
You really like that little country cousin.
Hey, what up, kid folk?
Little country cousin to show up with those shoes on.
It is not hard being a Carolina fan. Don't forget, we didn't make the tournament 2 years ago when Cole was on the team and Baycott was on the team, actually. And we weren't going to make the tournament then either. COVID saved us. You know what I mean? Duke didn't make the tournament 2 years ago either. So it happens. It's going to happen more often. But you better
I
get
would say that we didn't have players quit mid-season because we weren't going.
Enjoy it.
That's true.
So that man said it was his last name was Johnson. He played for the Hawks.
Jalen Johnson, right?
If we ain't going to the tournament, I ain't gonna stay.
Yeah. Have you heard from him again?
He plays. He plays a few minutes for the Hawks.
Okay. Well, I wish him luck. So,
man, listen, it's been a pleasure. But listen, before we go, I'm gonna just say this, y'all. We brought this to you, and we're gonna conclude this basketball talk. We appreciate y'all coming in. And I said this last week. Be careful, people, how you move and how you shake. Talk about the 4 young South Carolina natives going down to Mexico. And the cartel, had a mistake. And this is what I want to leave y'all with. And Mr. Antoan, you chime in if you see fit. And I told my mom, my dad, my brother, it's crazy that the cartel apologized for messing up and having a mistake. And we couldn't get an apology for George Floyd. We couldn't get an apology for Breonna Taylor. But the cartel will say, my bad. Oops, my bad. So be safe out there. If you travel abroad, be safe. But I got to give the cartel. Look, no, I'm not gonna give them credit. It's a sad situation, but I want to say we can learn something from apologies.
Mm-hmm.
Look, folks. I get that you want to have the cheaper surgeries. You better fly down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Traveling the back roads in some of these smaller areas that you've never been in before, and you look like you're a foreigner, makes you a target. I pray for the families. I'm glad a couple of them, I believe, survived, right?
2 survived, 2 perished.
Yeah, 2 perished. America has no reason to apologize to Black people for anything they've never had to. So I'm not surprised by Breonna Taylor. Happy birthday to her. I believe her birthday was yesterday.
Yeah.
And George Floyd and the millions of other Black people that has perished wrongfully. So they don't have to apologize to her. We also have to demand certain things too. We have to demand that our lives be valued as much as other people. And that means you have to make them accountable. There are ways to make them accountable. And we have to work within those realms and outside of those realms to make sure that our lives are valued as much as they should be. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well put, man. I just want to leave y'all with that. I knew he had some great words of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
People, watch how you move, whether it's Johnston County,
really,
whether it's out of state, whether it's out of the country. Watch how you move.
Yep.
Be careful. Be safe.
That's it.
Can't end it without saying shout out to Dawn Staley, man. Go win it all.
I hope she does. Absolutely. She is outstanding.
If Carolina has a shot, I'm rooting for the Tar Heels, but I want to see Dawn Staley continue to keep foot on their neck.
We played them pretty well last year for about 3 quarters.
we were the only team to give them
yeah.
a run at all.
Yeah.
Hey,
So anyway,
I'm
shout out to
I
Daisy
might be,
Kelly.
I might be wrong,
Yeah.
but did Carolina girls beat Duke twice this year?
We beat them twice, and they beat us in the tournament barely.
I got you. I just had to throw that out there, man. I'm just
That's
saying.
it.
I'm just saying.
That's it. You
Ladies
guys
and
take care.
Appreciate you
gentlemen,
joining us, man. Appreciate
All
you
right,
joining
absolutely.
us as always.
Yep. Be
And
good.
listen,
Take
All
care.
right,
you got to
we
come
out.
back. You got to come back. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, we got more people that's
Mhm.
gonna get up here. Man, I got to get Mr. Marlon Lee up here, and I want some of these Duke fans to show up. I want a Duke fan to raise their hand. And since it's your spotlight, it's your moment. Raise your hand. Tell me how much junk you want to talk. Come on, jump on this podcast, and let's see what you're made of. So, listen, we love you. Appreciate you. We out.
We outie.
We outie.